In example 3, we need to determine what additional information is needed to prove the triangles are congruent based off the listed postulate, and we'll explain why. You can write that down if you'd like. I'll explain why verbally. So for the first one, we'd like to prove that these two triangles are congruent using side, angle, side. Notice that we have one side congruent, so that's one of the S's. Also, AC is congruent to itself, and the A here is included between the two sides. So to make this one work for us with side, angle, side, the additional information that we don't know would be that this angle is congruent to this angle. So what we need to do is we need to list those two angles. So I'll list angle BCA is congruent to angle ACD. If we knew this information right here, then we would be allowed to prove those two triangles are congruent. Notice that piece is missing, and you wouldn't just want to throw that in there on a regular proof if you're not given that information, but we're just thinking about what we would need here if we had to prove those triangles congruent. For part B, we have angle, angle, side, and it looks like we have the two angles, so we're now looking for the correct placement of the side. Notice how the S is not between the angles, and so we don't want to list this side right here or this side right here. In this case, we can actually list either of the other two sides. Let's just go with PS here and RQ. You could have also listed ST and TQ here. Okay? So let's do PS is congruent to RQ. When you write a congruency statement, you've got to put the symbols there for what they are. If you don't, you're talking about the measure of those. And we'll circle this one up. On the right-hand side, we've got a side, side, side. Notice how here we have side, side, angle, and of course that's not cool. To prove triangles are congruent, can't do it. So we want to look for the other side. And if we only knew that AW is congruent to ER, then we would be allowed to use this postulate. So AW is congruent to ER here. And we just have a few more examples to do here. So in part D, we can see here that we'd like to prove these two triangles congruent with angle, side, angle. We've got angle, side, and then the other angle we would need would be angle A here and angle E. It's okay in this case to use just the letters because they don't, there's no other possible angle A. If there was a pair of intersecting lines here, we would need to be a lot more specific. If you listed this angle as CAB, it wouldn't be wrong at all. That would be fine. In part E, we'd like to prove these two triangles are congruent using SAS, so side, angle, side. And I mean, really, we just need to know here that BD is congruent to itself, and you could even mark that and say, well, you know, these two triangles are congruent already. We don't really need to know anything else. If you wanted to, you could put BD is congruent to BD. That's fine. Or you could say, I don't need to know any more information. Those are congruent using that postulate. For part F, we've got angle, side, angle. Notice here how we have a couple angles that are congruent here, or one angle between the two, and then one side between the two. So we've got an angle and a side, we need another angle. Notice the S is included. So here we want to go angle, side, angle, and then here we want to go angle, side, angle. So for us to prove these two triangles congruent using angle, side, angle, we need to know that angle F is congruent to angle C. Just a few more. We've got side, angle, side here for this one. So in part G, we have a side, angle, a side, and angle. And we would need to know that the other side here, AD, would need to be congruent to CB or BC. Either way is okay. If that was the case, then we'd have two sides and an included angle, and you could use side, angle, side. In H, we know that DB is congruent to itself, so we now have two sides that are congruent in each one of these triangles. We're looking for a third side. Well, the other side is over here, CB and DA. So we'd need to know that CB is congruent to DA to be able to use this postulate. In the last one, we've got side angle side. We know that PS is congruent to itself using the reflexive property. And if you look here, we've got side angle and then a side angle. And we just need this S here. And so we would want to state that RS is congruent to SQ. Just remember that when you're asked to prove something and you have given information, you can't just throw tick marks on there willy-nilly. But in this case, we're just thinking about what else we would need to prove that these triangles are congruent.